Hello everyone and welcome to our tutorial on Introduction to Python Programming. So before starting with the actual steps to involve or actual steps of programming Python, so we'll just try to understand what is actually Python programming language or how Python programming language is helpful in building us a lot of applications as well as in helping us to build some applications on artificial intelligence as well as any other subject matter that you want to learn about. So the first thing is to understand the whole concept of Python programming language, why Python was formed. So we'll just try to understand what is this Python programming language and how can it help us in building a lot of applications, and why should I learn this particular Python programming language as well. So what is Python programming language? So Python programming language is not a new concept, or it is not a new programming language, even though the popularity of the Python programming language is appearing right now. But the actual day when the Python program language was invented was in late 1980s. So it was invented by Van Rossum. So he was from Netherlands. So this was developed in late 1980s. So the thing is, it is not an early programming language. It was developed way back then, but consecutive changes and consecutive alterations were made to the programming language to suit the current environment. So that is how Python is being sustained till now. So each and every day there are new versions of Python coming up. There are new changes that are being made to the programming language, new libraries that are getting added for new applications. So Python is the most versatile programming language that is present right now today. So it is built it can be used to build any kind of application. So starting from backend of web pages to data analytics software, as well as GUI, graphical user interface, then for machine learning and artificial intelligence, deep learning. So there are a lot of hundreds of applications which you can use which you can build using Python. So Python is one of the most famous programming languages right now, and it is in most demand right now. So it is not a early concept. It was a very nascent concept in 1980s, but with the newer versions coming in, more and more changes have been made to the programming language. So Python, the main reason Python is being most famous is because of the understandability and the similarities with respect to other English language. So anyone who has sufficient knowledge in English language can easily write and understand Python programming language. So that is why it is most famous. So it is not that it is difficult to understand. It just uses basic English syntax. So if you are pretty good with basic English, then you can learn this programming language very easily. So that is why Python is most famous for. So then Python is derived from many other languages. So we have programming languages like ABC, Modula 3, C++, which are one of the most fundamentals of all the programming environments. Then we have Algol 68, Smalltalk, and Unix shells. There are a lot of scripting languages. So it is not an independent language on its own, but it has been derived from a lot of other programming language, and its functionalities have been derived from a lot of other programming languages. So this is just the basic introduction of Python. So how Python was conceived and how Python was able to be a such successful language is because of the derivative or deriving its nature from most of the other languages. So that is why it has become, or it has taken the advantages of all the other languages, left out the disadvantages. That is why it has become such a crucial part in every programmer's life. So why Python? So why should any person or any individual or a programmer should learn Python? So if you are trying to start to learn a programming language, so if you are a beginner, if you have not learned any other programming language, so Python is the programming language to go. So it is considered as the most easiest programming language because of its versatile syntax and simplicity in the syntax that is made about. So it is very easy to learn. That is why everyone recommends you to just start learning from Python. So Python will be the most important and most a very crucial programming language as well. So if you're starting to learn programming languages, so please start with Python because it is very easy to learn and it doesn't cause a lot of confusions. So, and also, rather than being easy, it is a multi-field oriented language. So you might be in for any kind of development. But like the thing is, with some programming languages or some scripting languages, it is only used for like the scripting side, or it is only used in developing some applications. So it is not versatile to develop any kind of applications. So that is why the most important part is Python is a multi-field oriented language. So what is a multi-field oriented language? So it can be used for web development, that is server side. We have libraries like Django and Flask which can be used in the server side. In software development, you can develop any kind of softwares that you want using scripting, as well as using different kinds of data structures and logic that is available. Then mathematics, we have libraries like NumPy, Pandas and lot of SciPy. All these kinds of mathematical libraries will help you do a lot of mathematical problems. So this is similar to MATLAB kind of initiative, where you can do any kind of mathematical operations using Python programming language. Then system scripting. So if you are aware of system scripting, it is nothing but making the scripts run in your computer program. For example, when you double click on any other folder, why does the folder open? Because of the scripts that is being written. So this server side scripting or system scripting is written in shell programming language, or or we call it as C# or C#, for example. So all those scripts are written in the C# or C#, what we call them. So this functionality can be even obtained in Python as well. So Python also can be used to write system scripts, which can enable scripts to run with the help of OS package and SYS system package. So then creating workflows. So if you want to create any workflows, that is also helpful. Connecting to databases. So connecting to databases in the sense you have hundreds of databases like SQL, SQLite, NoSQL, MongoDB, Firebase. So there are hundreds of database systems that is available. So with the help of the Python libraries, it is very easy and very systematic way to connect to any database system. So that is why Python is also very helpful in helping you connect to database systems. So any kind of database systems, there are libraries available that you can connect to. Then handling big data. So with the help of data that is coming in each day, that is millions of bytes of data that is coming in each day, it is important to understand that the role of big data will be huge in the future. So whenever you are considering big data analytics or Hadoop, all those important functionalities, that is reading from the databases, storing in the database, as well as handling large amounts of data, is made available with Python. So that is why you need to prefer Python. So if you learn one programming language, Python, you could do multiple tasks. So that is why Python is very important for any programmer. So what are the features of Python? So features of Python. So coming to the features of Python, we have the general purpose feature. So what is general purpose feature? So whenever you consider a programming language, so it is not oriented to any particular task. So it is a general purpose programming language. So it has multiple applications. So you can work, if you are a mechanical engineer also, you can work on different kinds of domains in Python programming language. If you are a computer engineer, you can work on software development. If you are a mathematical analyst or a mathematician, you can work with the math libraries. If you are a designer, you can work with the UI libraries. If you are a AI developer, you can work with AI libraries. So the main purpose or the main beauty of Python is about the libraries. So there are millions of libraries that are created each and every day. So these libraries will help us achieve any kind of application that we want to do. So with Python, you can do any kind of application. So these kind of application will be helpful in making you learn a lot of things that are related to Python programming, as well as any other domain. If you want to go to that domain, you can use Python programming as your base with those libraries to achieve your particular domain. So the next feature is interpreted. So what is interpreted programming language, or what do you mean by interpreted programming language? So if you consider the programming language like C or C++ or Java, so the main disadvantage is to run 2 or 3 lines of code, you need to save the code. You need to save it as the particular format. For example, if it is a C programming file, you need to save it as .c. If it is a C++ programming file, you need to save it as .cpp. Or if it is a Java programming file, you will save it as .java. So the thing is, with Python, without saving the whole code, you can directly execute line by line and you can get the output directly. So you don't need to execute the whole like the program, that is, you don't need to save it and execute the whole program. So if you want to execute any line of code, you can directly execute that line of code only without compiling the entire part of the code. So important thing is you don't need to compile the whole like 100 or 200 lines of code. You can execute only the particular line of code of your interest. So that will help you make a lot of it is very easy and it is very quick for you to like just compile or process the lines of code which you need. So if you don't need any kinds of different kinds of code or material, the thing is you can just program or you can just get the results of that particular line of code. You don't need to run the entire 100 or 200 lines of code that you have written. So that is why it is interpreted. So then we have high level programming language. So what do we mean by high level programming languages? See, most of the computers or all of the computers or any kinds of device cannot understand your English language. So your computers can understand only in the term of binary numbers, that is 0 and 1. So whatever language that you can type in, the computer doesn't understand. It needs to convert it into its machine level language or the language which it can understand. So the problem is some of the programming language that are available with us are in the form of machine level language. So you need to type in the language which the machine understands so that it can interpret it. So what happens in high level languages like C, C++, Java, Python or any other language which you are trying to learn? So you don't need to type it in the machine level language. You can directly type it in human understandable language, that is English. So if you can type your code in English, what happens is the compiler will convert it into machine level code and then run it and get the result back to us. So that is what it is doing. So you don't need to learn the language in any kind of machine level language. You can use normal English. So all the codes are written in normal English. So it is not a confusion and it is very easy to understand. So that is why you need the high level language, that is Python. So most of the languages that you are using right now are high level languages. So that is one thing. So then we have something called as dynamically typed. So what is dynamically typed or dynamical programming languages? So whenever you want to assign any variable, so in any kind of programming language, you will have lot of variables. So one kind of variables might be numbers, so other kind of variables might be decimal numbers. Then we have strings, which are group of characters. Then we have individual characters as well. So in Python, you don't need to assign any type to the data. So in Python, you can just assign a variable, that is the name of a variable. Once you assign the name of the variable, you don't need to assign the type of what type does that variable belong to. It will dynamically assign based upon the data you given. So if I assign x, so I don't assign any value to it. So x is just a variable. So if I assign x is equal to 3, then x will be an integer variable. So if x is equal to 3.5, then it will be a floating point or a decimal, that what you call it as a floating point variable. So then if we assign x is equal to like India or x is equal to Python, so that will be considered as a string. So you don't need to manually assign anything. It will be automatically assigned based upon the data that you given to the variable. So this is one of the most good features of Python. So these are just simple or basic features of Python programming language. So then coming into Python versus back in the day in 1980s to 2000, that is 2020. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to see what are all the versions of Python that came into existence. So firstly we had Python 1, then we had Python 2, then we had Python 3. So important thing to understand is some of the syntax in Python 2 is different from Python 3. So it is always preferable for you to learn Python 3. So the thing is, the last version or support for Python 2 is already over. So there will be no new packages that will be developed for Python 2. So please don't start with Python 2, directly start with Python 3. In Python 3, you have Python 3.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and now the 3.8 version has also been released. So the thing is, there is not much difference between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that is 3.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the only changes are in terms of certain packages, but most of the syntax will remain same. So if you have Python 3.5, 3.6 or 3.7 or 3.8, most of the basic functionalities that we will be doing is the same. So you don't need to worry about anything. So everything is the same, but except some small few minor changes is there that we don't need to concentrate much. But the thing you need to understand is we should concentrate on the Python version 3 because Python version 3 is the Python version that you need to learn right now, because it is the trending or the compatible version where new and new packages or new and new libraries will come into picture. So it is worthwhile learning Python 3. So please don't learn Python 2 or Python 1 because they're all outdated and obsolete. There are no new things that are coming on this programming language version. So important to learn Python 3 itself. Okay, so then we have demand for Python developers. So do Python developers have any demand in the market, or do you like how much of demand is there for people who have learned Python? So coming to the demand, so with this particular graph, you can see it in 2020. So the most demand for the people is for Python developers. So there is 30% demand for people who have learned Python, then 19% demand for people who have learned Java, and 5% to 6% demand for people who have learned C, C++, and rest all the other programming language with a small percentage. So very important to know that the huge share of all the programmers, that is all the developers, so the demand for huge share is in Python programming language. So that is why you need to start learning Python. So Python will be an integral part of each and every programmer's life from now on. So that is why you need to start learning Python. So now we understood what is Python, what are the features of Python, what is the demand that is there for Python, and what version of Python we should learn. So come on guys, we'll just install Python and we'll start running Python in our system as well. So to install Python, what we'll do is we'll go to Google Chrome and type Python on Google Chrome. I'll just help you with the installation. Yeah, here I am in Google Chrome, so I'll just type in Python download. So you can also type in Python download. So once you type in Python download, you can go to this particular first link, that is www.python.org. So that is the official link. So you can download the latest version, that is this. So you can download the latest version of Python, that is 3.8.3. So at the time I am doing my video, the latest version is 3.8.3. So if any new versions have come across, if by the time you are watching the video, no issues. All the versions of Python are compatible with the basic syntax that we'll be dealing with. There is no issues with the syntax, or you can execute all the code which I'm executing right now. So there is no big issue while if there are other versions of Python that are being executed or that are being available. So one thing you can try to do is pretty simple. You can try to download this. After downloading, you can start to install it. So if you are using Mac OS, you can use this command, that is you can download the Mac equivalent. So then if you are using Linux, or if you are using Ubuntu or any kind of different one, so what you can do is you can directly use your sudo apt get install python 3-minimal. So that is the command. So if you are installing using Ubuntu or Linux, you can type in the command sudo apt get install python 3-minimal. So this will install Python in your particular systems as well. So it is just a simple installation step where you can just download it. And you can install the whole thing. So that is a simple installation step where you can keep on clicking next, and you can download the whole download and install the whole Python IDE. So that is there. So once you install Python, so if you just go to your Windows and type in Python, so there will be two things that will be available. So one thing is just your regular Python IDE, so where you can just type in your Python code, and the other one is your Python idle, where that is your interpreter. So we'll just try to understand what is an interpreter and what is an IDE. So one thing what we'll do is we'll just load the IDE. Yeah, to get into the Python environment or Python interpreter, so we'll just try to understand what is an interpreter as well as what is the actual Python execution environment. So one thing about interpreter is, so interpreter I already told you. So whenever you want to run some code, so just click on idle. So just type in IDLE. So that idle is nothing but your Python interpreter. So whenever you come to your Python interpreter, it shows which version of Python you are trying to use, and it gives you 3 arrow marks. So this 3 arrows is indicating that we have entered into the Python interpreter. So I will come once again. So if you want to go to the Python idle, so idle is nothing but the interpreter of Python. So interpreter is the part of Python where you can execute the code line by line. So you don't need to type in the whole code. So you don't need to type in the whole code and then run the whole code. So you can just type in the code line by line and start executing it. So when you type in idle and when you come to this Python interpreter, so you can start typing simple code. So what is the advantage of interpreter is, so it is going to execute your code line by line. For example, whenever I type in 3 plus 3 or 4 plus 4, it is just a mathematical thing. So you can just use it as a calculator as well. So 3 plus 3, 3 or 12 divided by 3. So that is there. Then you have 2 minus 6. So that is your answer. So then you have 2 to the power. So to give to the power of option, you need to use double star. So 2 to the power of 3, that is 2 cube is 8. So all those things can be done with the help of Python interpreter. So Python interpreter is like the line by line execution of Python code. So that is how your Python interpreter helps you. So it does not run all the code at once. It is running the code one by one, that is one line at a time. So that is the beauty of an interpreter. So interpreter will help you understand the how the Python program is working, as well as do some short things or do some short execution, so which will help you execute the whole part of your code. So if you want to do some short calculations, short steps, or just execute a single line, seeing what output do you get, so you can use this interpreter to run the entire code. So that is with the interpreter. So if you want to go out of this interpreter and start typing code, it is pretty simple. You just need to type in, you just need to go to file, then new file. So very simple guys, you just need to click on file and new file. So then you will go to a new Python scripting environment where you can write your Python lines of code and then you can execute all the important lines of code. So I will just start, I will not use my interpreter. So I will just start with my basic Python code. So in any programming language, when you consider, the first thing that you would consider is a variable. So what is a variable or how to initialize a variable? So if you are very new to programming or if you don't know what is a variable, it is very simple to tell. So whenever you have your mathematics, you have your algebra as well as you have your regular mathematics. So in regular mathematics, what you will do is you are operating with direct numbers. So 6 plus 6, 5 plus 5, these are all numbers which have standard values. That is nothing but the value of 6 is 6, so it is nothing but a standard value. But in some cases, there are some situations where you can't assign a standard value to your, for example, to your data. So whenever you have some data, when you can't assign a standard value, so you use English alphabets like A, B, C or X, Y, Z or different names for assigning your value to the data. So A is nothing but a variable. So why we call it as a variable is its value can be continuously changed. So your value is not fixed. As and when you want to change the data, you can directly change the value of the data. So that is how the concept of variable came into existence. So with programming language also, the concept of variable came into existence because of the various data changes that we'll be making throughout the entire program. So this X, Y or Z, that is nothing but the name of the variable, can be anything. So but there are some restrictions. I will tell you what are those restrictions. So these names of variables can be name with a single letter, that is X, Y or Z. So it can be multiple letters like number, or it can be multiple letters, or it can be a combination of numbers and letters, for example number 8. So and it can be a combination of your underscore, your English alphabets and your numbers. So that is how your variable is defined as. So variable can be used to assign any value. So the value that you can assign to variable can be anything. So you can assign number, you can assign alphabets, you can assign different data to your variable. So what we'll do is we'll play with numbers first, then we'll go with strings, and then we'll see what are the type of different data types that are available in Python. So to start with numbers, so to name your numbers, that is nothing but you will use variable X. So if you want to assign anything, that is any data, like any data to your variable, you can just type in the value of that particular data. So as I already told you, Python is a dynamical programming language. So when it is a dynamical programming language, you don't need to type, you don't need to tell it is belonging to number type, or it is belonging to a data type, that is it is belonging to an integer where it involves only positive and negative whole numbers, or it is belonging to a floating type, that is it contains decimal. So you don't need to tell anything, you can just type in the value. So since it is a dynamically allocated programming language, it will understand what is the type of this programming language. So if I want to execute this code, so one thing about Python programming language is, if you have seen other programming language like C and C++ or Java, to end the line you must use this semicolon. So semicolon is called as line delimiter, which is telling that for the programming language to understand, this is my end of one line, so I need to use semicolon. But Python, you don't need to use any kind of semicolon, because the whole concept of Python is made so simple that you don't need to use any semicolon to understand the end of the line. So whenever you leave it blank, that will be considered as the end of the line. So to run this particular code, first you need to save as a Python file. So the value or the type of file is Python file. So it will be stored in .py format. So you can just type in the name of the Python file, that is, I will type it as my program1. So this is my Python, this is my Python file, my program1 is my Python file. So this is now saved as a .py file. So .py is an extension to store Python files. You can save it, then to run you can use shortcut keys, that is F5, or you can use an option called as run and run module. So both are same. You can use an option called as F5, that will help you to run the code, and you can use an option you can use your option of F5 or run module to run the code. So the beautiful thing about this is, while running the code, what happens is it is opening the interpreter. So now it opened the interpreter, but there is no output being seen. Why? Because we have not printed anything, or we have not done anything that to use or to display the data to any other environment, or to display the data to the interpreter. We have not used any command. So this is how you initialize a variable in case of Python. So if you want to initialize integer, so what you can do is you can directly assign it to an integer. But to understand what data is it being assigned to, we have a special command in Python called as typeof. So this typeof command will tell you what type of data is the actual variable being assigned to. So what I will do is, I will try to print the data using Python. So what is print? So it is similar to your printf, it is similar to your cout, it is similar to your system.out.println in C, C++ and Java languages respectively. So print will print it to the console or the interpreter. So whenever you want to print some value, you will print it to your interpreter. So if I want to print the value of x, so I will use the print command and I will try to print the variable. So I will run this code. Now I am able to print this variable. So this is the variable that I am trying to print out. So if I want to see what is the data type that this variable has taken, so I will use a simple function called as type. So what is this function? So if you use this particular function, so it has different functionalities. So type function, the functionality of type function is to get what type of data is this x holding. So this type function is a inbuilt function. So where you have not created the function, so the programmer, that is the person who has created the programming language, has created some inbuilt function to help you get a better insight of the whole programming language. So you can type in this particular thing. So it is telling me that it is an integer. So it is taking in as an integer type, where it is storing only the data that is a integer digit. So if I want to store a decimal or a floating point where it involves both integer as well as a decimal point, data with decimal points, what I will do is I will store it in x. So if I start to run, so it is telling me it is belonging to the class float, which is indicating that it is a decimal number. So other than numbers, what else I can store? I can store characters. For example, I can store a single character like a. So to store characters, you should use single quotes double quotes or 3 single quotes, so both are there. So how do you store a character is pretty simple. You use a single quote or a double quote, both are fine, but whenever you start with a quote, that is whenever you start with single quote, you should end with the single quote only. So whenever you start with double quote, end with a double quote. So if I want to store the alphabet A in X, so it is storing that it is a type of string. So this data, that is X, is belonging to a variable of type string. So if I want to store a different whole data, that is Python, so that is a set of characters. If I want to store, again it will be of a type string. So that is how you can assign a variable, and you can assign different values to the variable. You don't need to mention which kind of data you are trying to assign. So that is with Python. So if you want to print anything, you can directly use the command called as print. So I will be printing. So if you don't want to print the names of variables, so if you want to print anything on your own, so I can type in anything with the help of double quotes. So it is like this is Python. So if I want to add another print statement, so I can use another print statement. You can use hundreds of print statements in your whole programming language, so that is not a problem. So this is Python language. So that is how you are able to store the data here. So that is nothing but print it to the console or interpreter. So note one thing. So whenever you type in this command called as print, so if you type in another command called as print, so what is happening is it is moving into the new tab. So if it is moving into the new tab, one thing you need to understand is whenever you type in a print statement, after printing that particular line, so it is moving into a new line. So it is in order to prevent moving into the new line, that is whenever this is Python is being printed, the next command called as language, so that is also printed on the next line. So if I want to print it on the same line, but I want to use two different print statements, so what I will do is I will use this command called as end. So what I will do is I will use this command called as end. So end is equal to, I will leave a space. So after printing, this is Python, so it doesn't go to the new line. So it is leaving a space here, so then this language will be printed. Yeah, so did you understand now? So if you don't want anything to be printed in the next consecutive lines, so then you can use this command called as end. That is nothing but which is telling you how to end that particular print line. So if you don't want it to go to a next line like how it is doing now, you can use this end command and you can tell how to end it. So you can either give a single quote, or if you can give a line of quotes, so that is how it will end. Okay, end is equal to, sorry. Yeah, so whatever you give it as an end command, so that will be taken as this end of this particular print statement. So if you don't give anything, it will be considered as the next line. So whenever you print one statement, if you want to print another statement, it will be taken to the next line. So if you don't want it to go to the next line, if you want to print it in the same line, you can use end is equal to a single space mark, which will indicate that I need to leave one space, and then the next print statement will be executed. So that is one basic thing that you want to take in. So the next thing is, you discussed about how to print it to an interpreter or a console, but how do you take an input from the console? So that is the next thing that we need to consider. To take any input, what do we need is, we need a variable. So why do we need a variable? See, it is pretty simple, guys. So if you want to store some water, you need a container. So similarly, if you want to store some data, you need a variable. That is why you need a variable to be initialized when you are trying to take an input of something. So what I will do is, I will use X as my variable. So I will input something from the user. So whoever is using this program, I will input something from this user. So to input something, I will use this function called as input. So input is the command to input something. But think of a situation when you are trying to ask a user to enter a number, but the important thing is, how does he know that he needs to enter a number, or when does he know that he needs to enter a number? So that is why you need to give out some information to the user in order for him to understand what is the input that it is asking. For example, I will type in an input that is nothing but information, enter a number. So if I type in this, so what will happen is, when I run this code, so it is asking me enter a number. So now I need to enter a number in order to complete the execution of this program. So I will enter 121. So this completed the execution of this number. So that is what is the entire thing about input. So whenever you are given an input, so the important thing is to understand is you need to ask the user some, or you need to give the user some information in order for him to understand what to enter or what data can be entered or when to enter. So if you don't type in anything, it will be a confusion to him. So that is why input has a command to give the user, that is nothing but a print statement where it will print the things that is written within the curved braces. So that is about input. So what happened was we took a number, that's it, because we didn't print the number. So print the number, I will use this print x. So whatever number that I have taken, it will be printed. So if I type in 565, so it will print that 565 also. But the thing to understand is, even though I have written this enter a number, so I have already told you whatever value you give it to x, it will take. So it doesn't consider anything, or it doesn't take in any specifications while storing the data. For example, for this x, I can directly enter even a string called as Python also. So I can even enter a string called Python, because I told you, because of the dynamic allocation, that is nothing but the dynamic assignment of variables in Python. So there is no restriction that you need to enter only a number or enter only a particular character. So there is no restriction at all, because whatever you enter, that will be considered as a string. So that is very important. Even though I enter a number here, so I will use this type of command. So this type command will tell me what type of data is my x. So if I enter a number 122 also, even though I have entered a number 122, it is stored as a string. So the default data which the input will store is a string. So whatever the data which you enter from the console, it will be by default stored as a string. So if you want to convert anything to a string, so what you will do is, you can assign another variable, or what you can do is, you can use the type conversion operator. So we have a concept called as typecasting or type conversion, where we will be trying to convert from one kind of data to another kind of data. By default, it is a string. So for example, if I want to add any two numbers, so I will add any two numbers and store it in a variable called sum. So sum is equal to x plus 25. So then I will try to print the sum. So if I am trying to do it, since it is a string, so will it allow me to do this particular thing? So it is telling that you cannot add because it is a string. So what you can do is, there is an operation called as type conversion operation. So you can assign another variable if you want, or you can replace the old variable. That is nothing but you can replace the content of the old variable into a new content. So what I will do is, I will use any other new variable y. So I will convert my x, which is of the type string by default, to integer. Now if I am trying to do this, performing the action, that is nothing but I am converting my x, that is a string, to an integer, then storing this entire integer data in a variable called as y. So now if I want to enter any data, so what will happen is, so I will enter a number 15, so which will be converted to integer. So then after converting it to an integer, it will add 25 to it. So that is how it is doing. So if you want to convert it into a floating point number, you can always use this option called as float, where it will convert it into a floating point number. So if I want to add two floating point numbers, so if there is nothing but if I want to add two decimal numbers, so if I want to add if I want to add two numbers, that is nothing but 25 point or 12.56 plus this 25 point something, so it is able to add. So that is how it is doing. So whenever you use this float off or anything, it is converting into that particular data. So if you still have that doubt, you can again print float or print type of this particular data. So what is the type of y that is getting stored here? So we'll try to print the type of what is storing in the y. So whatever you are trying to do, it is nothing but converting into the float. So whenever you convert it into float, whenever you ask the type of it, so it will be considered as a floating number. So that is how data typecasting is done. So what is data typecasting? So whenever you want to convert one form of the data to any form of data, you need to typecast your data. It is nothing but changing your data from one format to another format. So the thing about input is, whenever you type in input, that is nothing but whenever you want to take an input from the user, it will be by default considered as a string. So that is very important to understand in Python. So after this particular thing, so we'll just see what kind of data can this variable store. So I already told you, you can store number. So that is nothing but you can store data, the variables with numbers. You can store variables with decimals. So if I can store any kind of variable with decimals, so 66.45, and you can store the variables with characters. So if I want to store any variable, you can store it with the character. So I need to use single quotes or I need to use double quotes, no issues. So I can use it with string also. So I will assign a string. So then these are the string that I have used. So then there is one more important type of data that we need to understand. So there is one type of data called as Boolean. So what is Boolean data type? We will try to understand. So if you have already used your Boolean data type in different programming language, you would know that Boolean is the data type which can store only two datas, that is either true or false. So what is true or false? So true also can be considered as 1, or it can also store false. So this kind of data is called as a Boolean data. So this Boolean data can only store two values, that is true or false. So this true or false is similar to your 0 and 1. So it is the data type which can have only two types of values called as true or false. So for example, I will assign x is equal to true. So if I want to print the type of x, so I will just print type of x. So to understand what is my data type actually, so you note that whenever I type in the keyword called as true, so it is becoming orange. So why is it becoming orange? I will tell you first. But we'll try to understand what is this data type first. Okay, to understand this data type, we got an output called as Boolean. So try to understand whenever you have the data type that is either true or false, so it will be considered as a Boolean data type. So this Boolean data type can only store two kinds of value, either a true or a false. So why this became a orange or red color is, so this is a keyword or a reserved word. So what is this keyword or what is this reserved word? We'll try to understand. So first thing is, whenever you want to assign your variables with any name, so you will try to give any name of your choice. For example, I can give it as a number, I can give it as num, or I can give it as n. So to give this, there are certain rules. So the name given to any kind of variable is called as an identifier. So identifier is nothing but the name given to any kind of variable, so that we call it as an identifier. So if an example, num is an identifier, n is an identifier. So the thing is, to assign a name to a variable, there are certain rules. So first thing is, to assign any names to the variable, important thing is it must always begin with an alphabet, or it must always begin with an underscore. So either alphabet or underscore can be used to begin your names of your variables. So but it can't begin with your number. So the thing is, you can use number at the in the middle or at the end, so that is not a problem. But the main thing is, whenever you want to assign a name to your variable, so it should start with an alphabet or it should start with an underscore. So alphabet can be capital or small, so both can be used, but the important thing is there is a difference. So small n is different and a capital N is different. So if I am storing a small n as for example 10, so if I am storing capital N as 5, so these two variables are different, so they are not the same. So that is why we call the programming language as case sensitive. So what is case sensitive? So there is a difference between your capital letters and small letters. So they both are not same. So capital N is not small as small n when you assign a value to the variable. So one thing to understand is your identifier or your name of your variable can be like any kind of length can be there to that variable, but the thing is it should always start with an underscore or with an alphabet. It cannot start with a number. So it can have number in the middle or underscore in the middle. So only thing is it should start with all these things, and it should not contain any special character. So I cannot have hash, dollar, percentage, greater, ampersand, so star, all these things are not allowed. The only thing that are allowed is alphabet. So it is nothing but for example, x underscore is underscore underscore number 1. So this is also a variable which can store data. So if there is any error, so that will tell you it will show you that there is an error in execution. Since there is no error, it kindly accepted it as a variable. For example, if I use a star or if I use a hash, so it is not allowing us to use this hash symbol. So if I am trying to use any special characters, it is not allowing me, or it can use that is nothing but numbers in the middle, so that is also allowed. So that is not a problem. Whenever you want to use numbers, so in the middle, that is allowed. So if I want to use numbers in the beginning, so that is not allowed. So if I want to use any numbers in the beginning, so that is not allowed, because I already told you, because of the rules, numbers in the beginning is not allowed. So it will give you a syntax error. So the important thing is it should start either with an alphabet or an underscore. So it can have numbers in the middle. So it cannot have special characters. So that is one rule that you need to understand. But the other rule that you need to understand is very simple. So the other rule that you need to understand is you cannot use your reserved word or keyword. So what are reserved words or keywords? So reserved words are words which give special meaning to the compiler. So what is this special meaning to the compiler is, so you have some commands like true. So true is nothing but a data type of a boolean. So if you can't assign true is equal to 5 or true is equal to 4 or any kind of data, you can't assign. You cannot assign data to the keyword. So what is this keyword doing is, it is telling you a special meaning to the compiler. So whenever I tell it as a true, so that true is considered as a boolean data. So you cannot assign anything that's anything to those true or anything to those that is, you cannot assign an identifier with a keyword. So what is a keyword? So these keywords will have special meaning. So what is this special meaning is nothing but they are used as syntax in the program. So they are used as different commands or syntax in the program. For example, type is also a function. So what I do is, so what we can try to do is pretty simple. So you have keywords like def, define, so you cannot use it as a particular name of an identifier. You have class, you have break, so you have continue, so you have and, you have or, you have if. So all these are nothing but they are used as syntax in a part of your program. So they will mean something to the compiler. For example, if I want to do some logical operation, so I will use my AND operation. So if I want to use my comparison operation or a data operation, so I would use my if statements. But the important thing to consider is whenever I am using this if, it is telling that you need to initialize an if statement. So that is why you can't use it as your identifier, or you cannot name it in the form of the variable. So that is how it is meaning. So this is like the basic rules that you need to understand while assigning any data or assigning any value to your whole, that is nothing but your Python program. Moving on, we'll just study about what are arithmetic operators. So coming to arithmetic operators, so what are all the different kinds of arithmetic operators we have in this particular Python programming? We'll just try to understand. So we'll just we'll just go with the flow and we'll try to understand what are arithmetic operators. So I will just write one expression, that is x1 is equal to 23 plus 45. So this is my additional arithmetic operation, so which will add my two numbers. So it can add even a decimal number with an integer, so that is also possible. So that is not an issue as well. So then I can multiply my numbers using my multiplication operator, that is with my star symbol. So then I can subtract my operators, that is nothing but subtract my data using subtraction operation as well. So this three operations I can undergo. I mean, I can use these three mathematical operations. But the thing is, we can have additional operations like division. That is when you want to divide, that is two numbers. So you can use division operation. So the main thing with division is you need to pay attention here. So the main thing with division is there is two kinds of division. One is floor division and the other one is normal division. So if I want to print this X4, that is having my data, that is 340 by 12. So it is having 28.3332. So the thing is, this is not a floor division or regular division where it will return my decimal points. So what if I need only my whole number, not a decimal point? So I don't need my decimal points, I just need the whole number part. So then I will use my operator called as double slash. So which is called a floor division, so which won't give out my decimal point. So you can see here it is returning me 28 and not returning my decimal point. So which is meaning that, so the floor division is helping me remove all my decimal points and get only my whole number data. So addition is one such addition, subtraction, multiplication, division you all have come across. So this is an additional feature, that is your floor division, where it just gives your that is nothing but your whole number instead of your decimal number. So the other one is called as modulus. So what is modulus? So whenever you divide two numbers, the remainder that is obtained is called the modulus. So if I want to print the modulus of any two numbers, so what I'll do is I'll use the modulo symbol, that is my percentage symbol. So after using my percentage symbol, so the remainder is 4, that is why it is giving me the remainder of 4. So that is being returned here. So whenever I want to calculate my remainder of division between two numbers, so that is what it gives me the result as. So then we have an exponent. So exponent, I think I've already told you. So if you want to do the power of any number, for example 2 to the power of 7, so or 8 to the power of 8 to the power of 5. So anything that, any number to the power of any other number, if you want to perform, so you can use this double star operation. So that is what your like double star does. It is nothing but to the exponent of to the power of. So 8 to the power of 5, if you want to print that 8 to the power of 5, you can use the print option to print 8 to the power of 5. So that is printing out your 8 to the power of 5. So that is with the mathematical operation. So coming to the mathematical operations, you have your addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. Then you have modulus, that is carrying the remainder. Then you have the floor division, that is nothing but your double, that is nothing but your double slash will give you a floor division. So the important thing that you need to understand next is your conditional statements. So what is your conditional statement is pretty simple. So whenever a condition, only if a condition is satisfied, some certain set of code needs to be run. So that is when you will understand the whole concept of conditional statements. So to understand conditional statements, first we will go with the conditional statement, that is if. So you have come across your if and else statements in your your different programming languages. So the way to use if in this particular statement is also pretty simple. So to use if, that is to use if else if statements, it is pretty simple. You need to use your statement, that is keywords if and else. So for example, so what I will have is I will ask the user for his age. So please enter your age. So that will be stored in a variable called as x. So what I will do is I will convert this into an integer. So I want to convert this into an integer. So I will use this int to directly convert what I am getting to as an integer. So my x is an integer which contains your age. So what I will do is I will use my if statement. So every conditional statements need to be given with a condition. So what is the condition that you will try to give with a conditional statement? So the first condition that I will try to give is pretty simple. If the age, that is nothing but x, so we'll name it as age. We will not keep it as x, we'll name it as age. So if age is greater than 18, so since it is an integer, because I've converted already this to an integer, so if it is less than 18, okay, so then So in case of C or C++, how would you write your if statement is you would use your braces to write your if and if statements. So here there is no braces, there is no semicolon. So how you will do is to end this condition you will use a colon. So after ending the condition you will use a colon. Then whatever you write in this next line, so this next line will be considered as your indentation. So very important in Python. So whenever you are doing something in Python, you always need to work with indents. So what is this indent is nothing but like Python, if you want to consider something that is within this for if conditional statement or within this if like if part. So the thing is you need to use this indentation. So before using Python you would use C and C++. So this brackets, opening and closing your brackets would indicate the end and start and end of your if statements, but here you are using this statement. So if I am typing here print you are minor, so then if you are trying to print out print you cannot enter. So these are the two statements which belongs to this if condition. So that is why it is given inside this indentation. So if I want to have another print statement, so print hello. So this hello will be a part of, that is nothing but your, this hello will be not part of your if statement, it will be part of your regular program. So what if the condition is 18, that is nothing but if the condition is satisfied, it is going to run through this particular loop. So once it comes out of the indentation, so if you don't give indentation, it will be considered as your normal loop. So what I will do is, I will run this code. So I will enter my age as 21. So one second, I will just run my code. So I will just run my code, I will just enter my age as 21. So this is just printing hello. So why is it printing this hello and why is it not printing these two statements? Since this condition age is equal to 18 is not less than 18 is not satisfied. So that is why it is going into it is not running these two statements. So it is printing out this print hello statement. So that is how your conditional statements are working inside Python. So what you can do here is pretty simple. So if age is less than 18, so I will try out another use case. I will just give an age as 12. So if age is 12, so it is running under this loop that is print you are minor, as well as it is printing these two statements. So these two statements are getting printed as well as this. So what happens is it will go through this condition, it will check whether this condition is satisfied or not. After the condition is satisfied, it will print these two statements which are part of this if loop. Then it will come out of the if loop. So that is how if statements are working. So what is else statement? So if this condition is satisfied, so then it will execute these two statements. Else if this condition is not satisfied, what I can do is the same way. I need to add a colon here. So then what will happen is the indentation is already here. So I need to leave the indent spaces. So whatever is there within this indent will be under this else statement. So this indentation gap is telling me this all the statements which are left with an indent belongs to this else statement. So that is how it is working. So then you can type in a statement stating that you are a major and you can enter. So that is how your if and else statements are working. So if it is 21, so you are a major and you can enter, because it tried to execute this statement, condition is not satisfied. Here the conditions got satisfied and then it is being used. So what I can do right now is, if your age is less than 18, you are a minor, and if I want to use else if statement, so what is else if statement is? So if you are using, if this condition is not satisfied, you can pose another condition. So if age is less than 18, but else if is nothing but if age is less than 18, so these statements will execute. Else if not, if age is not less than 18 or if age is less than 21, what you can try to do is, if age is less than 18, that will be printed, that will be belongs to this statement. If age is less than 21, so that is nothing but this statement will be executed. So what I will do is, I can tell that, okay, what I can do is, you cannot contest for elections. So else if to do your else if in your C and C++ programming language, you would use else and if. So here you can't use this else and if, you need to use the statement called as elif. So elif is a statement that will help you to execute this else if statement. So that will be printed. So you cannot contest for elections if you are less than 21 years old. So what I will do is, if I enter my age as 15, so okay, I didn't enter my correct age, so data type error, yeah. So if I enter my age as 15, so you are a minor and you cannot enter. So that is the thing it is telling. So if age is less than 21, so what I will do is, okay, I will make a minor change here. So if age is greater than 18, so what I will do is, I will tell you are a major. So if you can enter, but if your age is less than 21, so it is nothing but if I tell 20, you are a major and you can enter. So that is what is there. So if age is greater than 21, so this condition is satisfied. Else if, so you can use your else if statements to try to bring out that else if part also. Yeah, I made some small changes. So what I'm doing is, if age is less than 18, so it will print that you are a minor and you cannot enter. So if this is not satisfied and if my age is less than 21, it will tell that you cannot contest for election. So if I run this part of the code, so if I am 17 years old, it will tell me that I am a minor and I cannot enter. So what if I am 20 years old? So if I am 20 years old, so it will tell me that you cannot contest for election. So if this condition is not satisfied, then it will check again if this condition is satisfied. So you can have multiple else if statements using the command called as elif. So you can have multiple statements. So these are all the conditions that you can put in. So that is how you can create multiple if else if statements, and last you can give an else condition as well. So that is how it is mentioning. But note, the important point is, you always need to leave indentation to tell that these statements are belonging to this if statement. This statement is belonging to this else if statement. So that is how. So without condition, it is very without your indentation, it is very difficult, or it is a syntax error that will happen in Python. So make sure that you are giving indentation for each and everything that you do. Without indentation, it is very it is wrong, or it is syntactically wrong to perform any operation. So indentation will play a major role here. So the next topic that I will try to deal with now is pretty simple. So the next topic that I am dealing with right now is condition or nested if statement. So what is nested if statement? Is nothing but if inside an if. Okay. So what is if inside an if is pretty simple. So what I will try to do is, I will again do the same thing. So I will take this age as input. So what I will do is, I will add an if statement stating that if age is greater than 18, so what I will do is, I will enter into this if statement. So if I want to add another if statement within an if statement, so if inside an if is called a nested if. So if age is greater than 18, so what I will do is, I will add another condition that if age is greater than 21. So what I will do is, I will try to see, the important thing is, I can't start here. So if I will start here, so it will think that it is a part of this same loop, then this print statement is belonging to this if statement. So I always need to leave an indentation. So to tell that this print statement is in the form of this, it is of this if statement. So very important. So if I don't give indentation here, so if I type it here, so it will not belong to any of my if loop. See if yeah. So it is telling me that once you have come inside this, I need to give a condition. So nowhere I am giving my condition. So it is very important to understand that it should be a part of this if statement. So if I have my if statement here, so if I want to have another if statement, so it should be a part of this. So here if I have my age is greater than 18. So if I have my another if statement, so it should be within this indent, it should not be here. So if I keep it here, obviously it is another independent if statement. So what, it is not an if inside if, it is an if separate if statement. So if age is greater than 18, and again if age is greater than 21, after being 18 if it is greater than 21, so what you can tell is, you can print you can enter. So this is the thing. So this is if inside if. So if I tell I am 18, so it doesn't print anything because I have not given a print statement. So if I tell that I am 21, so it is checking me. It is not entering to this loop. If I tell I am 22, so what I am doing is, you can enter. So that is what is happening here. So this greater than or lesser than symbol is nothing but your logical operators. So this is not a logical operator, this is a comparison operator. So to understand what comparison operators we can use inside Python is, there are different types of comparison operators. So one is your equal to operator. So equal to is nothing but double equal to operator is nothing but equating. If the age is exactly 18, so you can directly print that you are 18. So this is a comparison operator where you can where you are directly comparing. So if I type in I am 18, so it will print directly 18. So this is comparing. So what is this value of age? Whether if it is exactly equal to 18, so then it will print you are 18. So that is how it is doing. So it need not be numbers itself, even it can be strings. For example, if you are comparing names, so I will be comparing with John. So if my name is John, then I can tell that you are my boss. Okay, so what I'll do is, so I'll type my name as John. So that is how it is printing. So this comparison operators compares two different entities and check whether they are equal or not. So likewise, a comparison operator, I will have a not equal to operator. So if my name is not, enter your name. So if my name is not John, then I will be your boss. So it is like, if name is not equal to John, then it will enter this particular statement. So if I am typing it as Peter, so then it will tell that I am your boss. So then if I enter my name as John itself, so then it will not tell anything because it is a not equal to. So not equal to sign is nothing but. So to understand how comparison operator work is pretty simple. So this will be compared to this. So if the condition is getting satisfied, then it will return a boolean. So what is boolean? So if the name is not equal to John, so then it will return a true. So when this if loop becomes true, then it will run the part of the statement that is belonging to this if statement. So that is how it is working. So comparison operator will always return your boolean value. So they always return boolean value. So they will tell whether it is true or false. So for example, you don't need to use it within this particular statement at all. So what you can do is, you can just print 3 is double equal to 3. So if you print what is this 3 is double equal to 3, what it is trying to do is, it is trying to compare your 3 with 3. So if they are both equals, then it should return a boolean. So always understand that your comparison operator will always give you a boolean at the end. So it is always returning a boolean. So what is happening here is pretty simple. So if name is not equal to John, so if whatever name I enter is not equal to John, then it will be true. Yeah, since this name is not equal to John, so if I enter Peter, Peter is not equal to John, then it is true. So after this if loop becomes true, then it is running, condition is satisfied, then it will run the statements which are part of this if loop. That is how it is happening. So then we already tried about this greater and lesser than things, that is nothing but your age. So whenever you have your age into consideration, so if age is greater than 21, age is greater than 18, you have your amount. So whenever you have any numericals that are being compared as greater than or lesser than equal to, so that is how it can be used. So this greater than symbol can be used, or this lesser than symbol can be used, and one more kind of symbols are the greater than or equal to. So if you are greater than or equal to 18 and less than or equal to 18, so all these kinds of comparison operators can be used. So I will come back to the types of comparison operator. You have double equal to tell that it is equal to the quantity or not. Then you have not equal to tell that it is not equal to a particular quantity. Then you have greater than, lesser than symbol. So after greater than, lesser than symbol, you have your greater than or equal to or lesser than or equal to. So all these things will return a Boolean. So it will return either true or false. So if it is true, then if it is a part of his if statement, since this condition is true, so when this condition is satisfied, then this particular statements will belonging to the if loop will be executed. So that is how it is happening. Okay, so we understood what is our comparison operator. So then we will try to understand our assignment operator. So what are our assignment operators? We will try to understand. So assignment operator, basic assignment operators is equal to. So if x is equal to 13, so that you are basically telling that you are assigning the value of 13 to your x. So this is the basic assignment operator, that is equal to. So then you have some other assignment operators. For example, you have x plus is equal to 20. So what I will do is x is equal to input, enter a number. So what I will do is I have this x plus is equal to 20. So what is this x plus doing is, it is, I will just print out this value so we will get better example. So I will have 1 here. Okay, one thing, because it is a string, so I need to convert it into an integer, because by default the input will take it as a string. So what I will do is I will enter 1 here, so it has become 21. So what operation did it do here? It is doing operation similar to that of x is equal to x plus 20. So instead of writing x is equal to x plus 20, I can write x plus is equal to 20, which is a shorthand operator of telling that it is x is equal to x plus 20. This is also same as this, x is equal to x plus 20. So this is assigning the value of x. So what it is doing is pretty simple. To try to understand this, it is simple. So whatever is my value of x, so it is plus is nothing but to that it is adding 20. Then that added value is getting stored in this x. So you have your x which might be 0, 1, 2 or any other number. To that it is adding 20. And whatever is the new value that has occurred after adding the 20 to my x, so that value it is storing in x again. So that is what is the meaning by x plus is equal to 20. So you have x minus is equal to 20 also. So x minus is equal to 20 is nothing but whenever you are doing the same operation, x is equal to x minus 20, the same thing, x is equal to x minus 20. So it is the same operation as x minus is equal to 20. So then you have your multiply also, x multiply is equal to 20 is nothing but x is equal to x into 20. So you have x divided is equal to 20. So anything, any mathematical operation, so x is equal to x divided by 20. Then modulus, x modulus is equal to x modulus by 20. Exponential is nothing but x exponential is nothing but x exponential is equal to x is equal to x exponential of that values. For example, if you want to take x cube, it is pretty simple. X exponential is equal to 3 if you try to give. So it is nothing but your x cube. So if I want to run this code, so if I type in 2, so it is returning 8. So what is this meaning? X is equal to x exponent 3. So these are all the assignment operators. So what are all the assignment operators? Equal to, plus equal to, then you have minus equal to, then you have star equal to. All the mathematical operators that you have, when you add equal to, they will become assignment operators. So these assignment operators perform assigning operations. So what are they doing? They are assigning values to your variable. So basic one is equal to. The other things we won't use it that much, but the major thing that we'll be using is our values, that is nothing but your data, that is your equal to. So you won't be using that x plus is equal to x minus is equal to, you will be using. So other than that, there is always a tendency of you writing x is equal to x minus 20 rather than x minus is equal to 20. So this is just a shorthand convention that you can try to use. So after that we have the next kind of operators that is called as bitwise operator. So what is this bitwise operators, we'll try to understand. So Python has a bitwise operator, or it has a bitwise operation. So what is bitwise is, whenever I store a number 12, so that will be converted into my binary format. So you all are aware of binary format, that is nothing but data will be stored in the form of zeros and ones. So in bitwise operations, data will be stored in the form of, it is nothing but all the data will be converted into binary format, and the data will be stored in the form of ones. So how you can convert your data into binary format is pretty simple. So whenever you have your data, that is nothing but any data that can be converted into binary format, what you will do is, you will convert that data into, you will try to convert the data into binary format. To convert data into binary format, it is pretty simple. So you have your data, that is nothing but, if you want to convert data, so there is a method or a process. Yeah, to convert this, we have this particular formula. For example, if you want to write it in the form of, if you want to convert your data to binary, for example, if you want to convert your 0 to binary, what you will do is, you will write that equivalent format in binary format. So to convert everything to 0, how you need to convert is, the whole formula is in the form of 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, 2 cube, 2 to the power of 4, and 2 to the power of 5. So the thing is, if you want to write 0 in the form of binary, it is nothing but 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So you can just use 2 digits, 1 digit. So for example, to exhibit 0, you just need 0 itself. So because 2 to the power of 0 is 0, so that is why it is 0. To exhibit 1, it is nothing but 2 to the power of 1 is pretty simple, it is 1. So it is 1, 0. So if you want to represent 2 to the power of 1 is 1, so 2 to the power of 0 is 1. So if you want to represent 1, it is nothing but 0 and 1. To represent 2, it is 1, 0. So it is pretty simple. So when you want to convert anything, for example, I will just open my notepad. So if you want to write 0 in binary, it is 0, because it is 2 to the power of 0 is 1. So this is particularly 0 in binary is 0, but 1 in binary is also 1. But 2 in binary is nothing but 1, 0. So why 1, 0? 2 to the power of 0 is 0. 2 to the power of 1 is 2. So that is why it is 1, 0. But to represent 3, it is 1 and 1. Why it is 1? 2 to the power of 0 is nothing but 1. So if I keep it as 1, then 2 to the power of 1 is 2. Then 2 plus 1, that is how 3. To give out 4, you need to use 1, 0, 0. Why 1, 0, 0? 2 cube, okay, 2 square is 4. The other 2, that is 2 to the power of 1 is also 0. 2 to the power of 0 is also 0. That is why it is 4. So to represent any number in binary, it is very simple. It is nothing but 2 to the, any number which is in the form of 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, which can be represented, can be converted into binary. So bitwise operations will always happen in the form of binary number. So you can't do bitwise operation with 25 and 36. So you need to convert this 23 to binary, again 45 to binary. How do you do it? You need to draw a table that is nothing but until your 25 comes, that is 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, that is how you do 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, that is how you convert. For example, the last digit I want to show for conversion is 10. So how will you express 10 in the form of binary? It is nothing but 8 plus 2. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So what you will do is 2 cube is 8, okay. Then 2 square we won't take. 2 power 1 will take, then again we'll take it as 0. So this is how I represent 10. So it is nothing but 2 cube plus 2. So any digit that you are taking, you need to represent in the form of powers of 2. So that is how you are able to convert it into binary. For example, if you want to do, okay, 16. So how will you write 16 in powers of 2? It is 8 plus 4 is 12. Plus, okay, 16 is pretty simple. You have 8 plus 4 plus 2 is nothing but, then 8 plus 4 is 12, 13, 14, 1. This will become 15. But 16, it is very simple. You can use it directly as 16. So if you use it as 16, it is nothing but 2 power 5. 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is how you type it in, you write your binary format in 16. But if you want to do 15, It is nothing but your 8 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. So that is how you type it in binary 1111. So that is the thing that you convert in. You can convert any number into a binary format just by expressing that number in the terms of powers of 2. So whenever you are expressing in the powers of 2, so if that particular power needs to be taken, you need to replace it 1. If that particular power need not be taken, you can represent it as 0. For example, for 14, it is nothing but 8 plus 4 plus 2. So it is nothing but 2 cube is taken, 2 square, 2 is taken, but 2 power 1 is not taken, so you can put it as 0. So that is how it is happening. So entire thing needs to be expressed in the form of 2 powers. So if the 2 power some number is not taken, you need to replace it by 0. If it is used in expressing that number, you need to replace it by 1. So that is how you convert your data into your, that is nothing but your binary format. So what is exactly happening in bitwise operation is everything is getting converted into binary format. For example, what is happening is A is equal to 60. So if A is equal to 60, okay, let us do it with simple numbers. A is equal to 4. So how will you represent the 4? To represent 4, it is pretty simple. You don't need to convert it, it will automatically convert. So to represent 4, it is 2 to the power of 2. That is nothing but 1. It is nothing but my 2 power 2 and 2 power 1 is 0. It is nothing but my 1 0. So then I have my 3. So B will be 3. Or it is nothing but my 1 and 1. So 1 0 0 and 1 and 1 it is taken. So 1 0 0 and 1 and 1 are my binary equivalents. So what I will do is I will do a bitwise operation. C is equal to A and with B. So what is AND operation? If both the bits are 1, so then it will be considered as 1. So if any one of the bit is 0, then the answer will be considered as 0. So that is what it is doing. So if I want to print it, so what I will do is I will print C. So it is printing it as 0. So why it printed as 0? It is pretty simple to understand. So you can represent A is equal to 4 like this. You can represent in binary format 1 0 0 because it is 2 power 1, 2 power 0, 2 power 1 and 2 power 2. Okay, so 2 power 2 is 4, it took into consideration. So then you have B is equal to 3. So whenever you have B is equal to 3, it is pretty simple. It is 1 and 0. So it is nothing but 0, 1, 0. So what it did was, it is trying to compare your data. That is, it is trying to compare each and every bit. So first bit with the 0th bit, 1 and 0, if I do my AND operation, the result will be always a 0. Okay, understood. So then if 0 and 1, if I am doing my operation, so then again it will be 0. Then 0 and 0, it is 0. So only if both my bits are 1, so then it will be considered as a successful AND operation. So if I try to print it, it is 0. So what if I try to print my 4 and 4? My 4 and 4, it is trying to print it as 4 only. Why? You understand this. So this I will replace it by 0, this I replace it by 1. So if I am trying to compare my 4 and 4, this 1 and 1 will be 1 itself. So then 0 and 0, if I am doing my AND operation, it is 0. Then 0 and 0, again AND operation, it is 0. What I will do is I will do it with 4 and 3. I will use my OR operation. So to use OR operation, I will use my pipeline operator. So pipeline operator is a straight line that you will get above enter. So whenever you use the key above enter, so that is your pipeline operation. So that is called as your OR operation. So whenever you are trying to do OR operation, you are getting 7. So why this 7 you are trying to get is pretty simple. So in OR operation, it is pretty simple. If any one of your bit is 1, so the output will be 1. So if 0, okay. So if you are doing OR operation, so if it is 1 and 0, since one of the bit is 1, it is output is 1. The other bit is, since another bit is 0 here and one of the bit is 1, so again this will be 1 here, not 0. So this 0 and 0, it will be 0. So now what is happening? What is happening is, it is successfully completed your OR operation. So this is 2 power 2, that is 4. This is nothing but 2 power 2 is 4. Then you have your nothing but you have your 2 power that you have your 4 plus 3 that is being added. So that is why it is giving you this result 7. So why result is giving 7? This is nothing but your 2 cube, that is your 8, and sorry, you are having this 4 plus 3, that is 7. That is the result that you are getting when you do your operation. Yeah, sorry guys, because the 3 is 0, 1, 1. So if you do 3 is 0, 1, 1. So it is pretty simple. So it is 0, 1, 1. So when you are comparing the individual bits, that is 1 and 0, it is 1. 0 and 1, it is 1. 1 and 0, it is again 1. So 1, 1, 1 is nothing but 7. So that is why whenever you do this operation, that is 4 mod 3. So that is why it will give you an answer of 7. So it is very simple. So you compare individual bits. So if any one of the bits is 1, the output is 1. If any one of the if both the bits are 0, then the output is 0. That is how your OR operation is working. So after your AND or OR operation, you have your other operation, that is NOT operation. So what is NOT operation? So if you consider your NOT operation, so it is nothing but your complementary operation. So what is happening in your NOT operation is, it is giving your negation. So what it is doing is, it is converting all your ones into zeros and zeros into 1. So if I am doing my complement or NOT operation, so I will need only one variable 4. So if I am using my complementary operation, it is converting my ones into zeros, then zeros into 1. That is what it is doing. So how to do my complementary operation? It is nothing but using this symbol. So what I'll do is, I'll complement my A. So I will just try to print it. So what this complementary operation is doing is, it is taking my complement of my number. So this is my complementary operation that is being happening. So it is converting my zeros to ones and ones into my zeros, and that is how it is establishing my complementary operation, or what we call it as binary ones complement. So what it is doing is pretty simple. So to understand ones complement, it is pretty simple. So what it is trying to do is, it is trying to convert my zeros to ones and ones into my zeros. So if you try to convert your ones into zeros or zeros into 1 is, to represent 4, you will use it my 1 and 0, 0. So after converting my 1 and 0, 0, what it is trying to do is, it is converting my zeros to 1. So it is 0, 1, 1. So after converting my 0 into 1, 1, so one thing that you need to do is, you need to add 1 to this. Okay, so if you add 1 to this, what is happening is, it has become 1. If it is nothing but your binary addition, so what it is doing is 1 and 1 again 0, because 1 plus 1 is 0 and 1 will be again a carry over here. So again 1 plus 1 is again 0, and what it is doing is, it is taking in that carry as a signed integer. So that is what it is doing. So to understand this concept better, you need to understand the concept of binary digits and binary operations pretty well. So that is how your binary operations are working. So you have a lot of other binary operations like left shift, right shift, XOR operations. So to understand that, you need to try to understand your binary operations better. Then you will try to understand each and every binary operations. But this is enough. The majority of the operations that you use is your bitwise AND operation, where you will try to use your ampersand symbol to compare each and every bits. If both the bits are 1, so then that particular bit answer will be taken as 1. If then you will do your OR operation, where any one of your bit is 1, then the output is taken as 1. If both the bits are 0, then the bit will be taken as 0. So that is the total operation that you will try to do with bitwise operations. So there are other operations like XOR operations, and there are operations like left shift and right shift, where you can left shift and right shift your individual bits. So if you want to learn more on this, please try to understand what is this left shift, what is this right shift, what is the complement, so how do you take one's complement. So all those operations are involved. So you can learn that better, but as far as our consideration is concerned, so you don't need all those operations. The last operator that I will be trying to do today is called as my membership operator. So what is this membership operator is pretty simple. So membership operator is trying to find out whether that particular data is present in my whole data. For example, so in is my membership operator. So what I will try to do is pretty simple. So if I have my data, that is my string, that is Python. Okay, I will store this data in string. So Python is a language. So this is my whole string. So what I will do right now is, this is my whole string. So in is a membership operator. To understand how in works is, so I will have my y, that is nothing but Python. So what I will do is, if y in x, so if there is Python in this whole string, Python is a language, what you need to try to do is, you need to print yes present. So data is present. Yes, so it is printing data is present because this string Python is there in this entire string. So this small string Python is there in this entire string, that is why it is printing, it is true. So if I rename it as anything, for example John, so it won't print anything because this John is not there in this entire string. So it is checking the membership, whether this particular string or data is present in this whole data. So whether this data is present in whole data, so then if it is there, it is checking for the membership. So then it is going into this if loop. So again it is returning a boolean. If this small string is present in this large string, so then it will return it as nothing but true. So this small string, yes, it is present in this large string, then it will return it as true. So if not in, so not in is another operator. So what it is trying to do is, if John is not there in this particular whole string, then this will be true. Then the statements which are relating to this if statements will be taken in. So that is how it is working. So this in and not in is basically telling you that whether it is particularly whether that particular small string is there in this entire string, whether this is a member of this. So that is why in and not in are my membership operators. So again, if I want to check, whether with this Python is present in Python is a language, so what it will return? It should return a boolean to me. Yes, true. So that is why it is returning. So basically all these comparison operators as well as this membership operator will return a boolean. So it will return true or false. For example, I will tell Java right now. So if Java is in Python is a programming language, so it is false because it is not there. So even it is not only this entire string, even if a particular alphabet, if I want to check, if P is present in this entire string, if I want to check, it is true because P is present in this whole string. Yes, it is true. Thus, even if the small string is anywhere a member of this large string, so then that you can compare. So that is why your membership operator is very important. It is checking whether this particular small item is present in my entire large data. So small item is a small string, large data is a large string. So but in numbers it is not possible to do that, but it is possible in strings, in lists, in dictionaries, in tuples. So we will learn what is list, dictionary and tuple. So with this I am ending the phase 1 of learning what is Python is a programming language. So in Python, Python's introduction, we learned about variables, we learned about how to install Python, what are all the basic steps that is involved, what are all the basic operators that are involved. So this is the part 1 of our Python tutorial. So we'll be coming up with other parts where you'll be learning much more about Python. Thank you guys.